Hello, I'm Dana Cowley, and welcome to Charter Local Edition Northwest. Today we're in Salem, Oregon, and my guest is Senator Jeff Kruse. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
You are concerned about unsustainable growth in the state government and the budget.
I am. What people don't realize is the fact that the size of government in Oregon has grown by 40% over the last 8 years. It's clearly unsustainable. Oregon, the per capita spending by state government in Oregon is actually higher than per capita spending by California, if people can believe that. So the question is, how do you sustain such a growth level? And the budget they're trying to put on the table now would be an additional 20% increase over the next 2 years. So at some point in time, we have to say enough is enough and get back to maybe core services again.
In the areas where you say we've had the 40% growth, what are the areas that have received the most? Is it just giving state workers more money? Is it expanding programs? Where is that expansion happening?
Well, a fair amount had to do with Medicaid and the expansion population. But, I mean, for example, according to leadership in the building, we have a $1.7 billion shortfall going into this budget cycle. They aren't factoring in the fact that we have an additional $1.5 billion to spend, which is an 8% growth just on its own. And with all of this going on, the governor did give all state employees a 6% pay raise this time, and that's on top of their other natural step increases that they would get just for time served in the business. But quite honestly, we have expanded the number of state employees dramatically over the last decade.
All right, and so what would you like to see happen?
What I would like to see happen is us go to a different budgeting process than one we use in the state of Oregon. The way we do budgets now, it's called current service level budgeting, and that assumes everything government is doing is fine and wonderful and needs to continue, and we just need to continue to expand those programs. And what we've been advocating for is a process called zero-based budgeting, which would basically tell every agency, let's assume you don't even exist. If you were going to start over, what programs would you have? And ask them to defend the spending they're currently doing so we can prioritize what's most important for the people of Oregon.
Right. And then we also want to talk a little bit about transportation, because of course that has a lot to do with where our budget dollars were going, and you're seeing great growth, especially in Portland. More and more people moving to the state of Oregon. And I read your newsletters, and you've been frustrated with that process. There were committees made, committees taken apart, now different committees going. What do you hope to see out of this at the end of the session?
What I would hope to see is a transportation package. And by that, I mean a package that would actually put gas tax dollars, which is a dedicated fund, by the way, into roads and bridges to kind of sustain the current system. What has held us up is a thing called low carbon fuel standard, and which is interesting in and of itself because it's based on the theory of global warming, which science has never proven to start with. But they are looking, actually what they are attempting to drive to is a $1 a gallon increase in the cost of gasoline to try to force people into electric cars and natural gas driven vehicles. Whether that has merit or not, the interesting part is the infrastructure to deal with that sort of transportation system does not exist. What we are attempting to do is to try to clear the pathway to do, for example, a 6 to 8 cent gas tax increase just to go into roads and bridges, which is where it's supposed to go. So there's some potential constitutional issues here, but the fact is the low carbon fuel standards, first of all, would not benefit Oregon at all. They would basically go to out-of-state corporations, and you can follow the money in some of the political campaigns as to why that has become important to some people.
And I have time for one quick question.
Yes.
Do you feel you'll be getting some help from the federal government with the emphasis on infrastructure now?
We think so, and there's several things we could talk about there. At the current point, I think for this year, the fact that the transportation funding from the feds will be relatively stable. But with this new administration, I don't expect a whole lot of changes to happen until at least 2018.
All right, well, thank you. We appreciate your time here. This is your Senator Jeff Kruse. I'm Dana Cowley, and thank you for watching Charter Local Edition Northwest.